You're listening to Becoming Wildly Resilient, brought to you by University of Kentucky Human Resources, Health and Wellness. Together, we will discover how we can thrive at work, home, and beyond. Hey everybody, Sebastian Calmes, Wellness Specialist with UKHR Health and Wellness. Today on Becoming Wildly Resilient, we have a special episode because we're going to be hearing from Tony, Lynn, and Jaime Brown. Both UK employees share about their personal resilience stories. So go ahead and settle in, and it's time to become more wildly resilient. Here we go.
Hi guys, my name's Tony. I am an IT guy at UK, and I have been invited to speak on this podcast about my well-being journey of losing 100 pounds.
Tony, today's episode is a platform for members of the UK community to share their personal resilience stories. What would you like to share with listeners today?
If you want changes made in your life, you have to be the one that makes those changes. You have to dedicate yourself to making the change, or else it's not going to happen. You can't blame others for where you're currently at. My personal resilience journey has led me to lose 100 pounds. And in that journey, it's come with a lot of sacrifices and a lot of knowledge that I've gained as far as nutrition, how to lift, and as far as sacrifices are concerned. It's really just being able to tell yourself no. If you can't tell yourself no, there's not a sacrifice that's being made. No change is going to happen. But there are a few challenges that come with this: time management, consistency, and sacrifices. So as far as time management's concerned, if you're looking to, let's say, eat better nutritionally, instead of going out for lunch every day when you're working, take the time when you're at home and sit there and go, I am not making this decision for me. I am making this decision for future me. This is not about you, it's about future you, so that way you can get to those goals that you want. As far as consistency is concerned, you have to show up. You have to constantly make those decisions that get you to that goal that you want.
At what point did you realize you wanted to make a change?
It got to a point where I was looking at myself and it was hatred, genuinely, towards myself. It was anger as far as like, how could I let myself get to this point? How could I just realize that this was all happening, but not making the changes to make sure I get to where I actually want to be? Depression really kicked in. I started looking at myself and going, do I find myself attractive? That to me was important as far as where I want to be. And I know that might seem shallow, but for somebody who's been truly overweight for 27, 28 years, it mattered to me. It felt like when I was heavier, no one wanted to really interact with me. No one wanted to look at me. And that might be my own insecurities that I'm putting onto other people, but it really did get to a dark place. There were other factors. You can't really see it. I have a thyroid scar here. I have half a thyroid, which means that my hormones were messed up. That's also a really big part of this. So making sure that not only that you have a goal, but that you have set yourself up for success to reach that goal, and you have a support system. For example, I was getting blood tests and whatnot to make sure all of my levels and whatnot were great, and they weren't. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't get any of those tests. So it's very important that if you're serious, really dedicate yourself to using the resources that UK has available to you. So about 2021, 2022 is when I started getting into the mentality of I have to get some sort of activity in. At the time, I was working for another company, not UK, and on my lunch breaks, I would head to the gym and I would get a lifting session in, and then I would come home, get back to work, and then I would head back out to the gym for an hour cardio session. I would not recommend doing that again because I don't even do that at this point. I thought I had to be overly active in order to correct like 23 years of wrongdoings, when in reality, this is not something that you can rush. It takes so long to get this, and that's why consistency matters. There's no way I could have gotten to that without the consistency. The start of 2024, I was 285, and as of yesterday evening, I am 188.8, which is fantastic. That's 3.3 pounds away from 100, and that's incredible.
Over the course of your personal resilience journey, did you notice your values changing over time?
Absolutely. At the very beginning, I valued isolation, and I think I valued isolation because I was in a depressive state. I didn't want anyone to perceive me. I wanted to hide myself away from the world because, to be honest with you, I was embarrassed, and it was rough. But over the course of time, it's definitely changed. I want to be seen, but not because I'm like, oh, I find myself attractive or anything like that. I want to be seen because I want others to know they can do this too. Because me being seen means others get to see and hear my story. And I think the story is important to hear, simply because it's just a simple UK IT guy, somebody who typically sits at a desk for 8 hours a day, is managing to get 15K steps regularly. That's crazy. So I absolutely valued being seen because if anybody has questions or needs that motivation, I'm here. They can look at me and go, okay, this guy could do it. He's an IT guy. Why can't I do it? To value being seen, when less than 5 years ago, I valued not being seen, I think is a really big step in the correct direction I want to head for my own personal resilience journey that's still ongoing.
You used to value isolation, but now you're finding yourself to value connection more.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way of putting it. Connection is very important to me because it allows me to help people get to where they want to be on their own personal resilience journey. And it's bigger than me. Nothing brings me more happiness, truly, than helping someone get to where they want to be. It's an incredible feeling.
Tony, were there any stigmas, whether they be societal, family, work, generational,
Sure.
that set up barriers for you along your personal resilience journey?
Without a doubt. I have had professionals tell me when I was around 285 that maybe the lowest I would go is like 250 because that's my body composition. They were chalking it up to genetics, and they didn't really empower me to make the changes. They gave me an excuse to settle, and that's not good. You have to be empowered to make the changes that you want. I didn't really get that empowerment. And so that empowerment came from within.
Has your understanding of personal resilience changed or evolved over time?
Absolutely. I always thought it was a matter of I have to steel myself. I have to harden my brain so that way no outside forces can affect me. But what I failed to realize is the outside forces weren't the problem. It was the internal conflict that I had to deal with myself. And so as the journey continued and as I got older and older, I realized that other people weren't the problem. I absolutely was the problem. The moment you go, hey, this is my fault, I have to make a change, is the goosebumps moment.
If you could go back in time to the beginning of your personal resilience journey and tell yourself one thing, what would that be?
What I would tell myself is the same thing that I really want to leave the listeners with. Empower yourself. You have the ability of making these changes. Absolutely you do. Stop second guessing yourself. The power that you hold for your life, nobody else has that power. You're the one that makes the purchases. You're the one that has to manage their time. Everything you are responsible for. And it's so important for you to realize, hey, I'm responsible. If I want to get to where I want to be, I have to make changes. Because if I continue with where I'm currently at, I'm still going to be unhappy because nothing's changing. If nothing's changing, things are remaining stagnant and you're going to be so unhappy for so long until you realize, maybe I should be more responsible. Maybe I should take some accountability in why I am in this situation. Taking that responsibility is the first step in empowering yourself. And I hope you're able to do that.
And that's how you become more wildly resilient.
Yeah!
My name is Jaime Brown, and I live in Lexington, Kentucky. I have worked at the University of Kentucky for over 20 years. I've been in research, psychology for about 20 years, behavioral sciences for about 3, and now I just celebrated my first month in the Department of OBGYN. It's been an amazing journey, but also with a lot of ups and downs.
Today's episode is about giving members of the UK community an opportunity to share about their personal resilience story. What about your personal resilience story would you like to share with listeners today?
Resilience has been a huge part of my life, as I'm sure it has been for everybody. The idea of grief and pain and fear, those are all reasons that we have to find this resilience that's inside of us. Mine, starting out as a child into adulthood, it's been a journey. The last few years have definitely been the hardest out of the entire 48 that I've been here on the planet. Like I said, I've been in psychology for about 20 years. I had to leave that position for reasons that were out of my control. I ended up in behavioral sciences, love the work I was doing there, the research I felt like is very important. I've loved doing research and offering positive and love out into the world, and unfortunately, that came to an end. The grant funding ended. There was a little bit of issues with that, and I got a 60-day notice, and that was probably the hardest thing that ever happened in my career. Had to find something else. Luckily, I am still in research, Department of OBGYN, but in addition to that, I had some health issues. When I started at behavioral sciences, unknown, it's still undiagnosed. I'm on medication, I've had tests. The last year has just been crazy, but I do have that under control now. I was able to change my behavior and get that stabilized. Still don't know the cause of all of that, which is really scary, but at least I'm not living in so much worry. Additionally, with the 60-day notice, I had some family issues. Those are probably some of the hardest things, not being able to communicate with people I love, not understanding where they're coming from, losing the trust and the compassion and the empathy is probably been one of the hardest parts, is not understanding the people that I love.
At what point did you realize you wanted or needed to make a change?
The resilience I've had to show throughout my entire life, I'm sure everyone can relate to the pain and the anger and fear that we experience in our life and how we have to get through that. I would say it all started when I was introduced to yoga, meditation. That was in my early 20s. As I went forward, I met musicians and artists and realized that I wasn't a victim of circumstance, that I was able to control how the world affected me to a degree, but most importantly, how I affect the world. So the idea of when I decided to make a change was gradual. This past year, did I decide to make a change? I think the changes kind of happened to me, which forced me to change my behavior. In addition to all of those other changes, losing my job, having the grant funding, I also ended up still having some family issues where we don't understand each other. And this idea of not being able to communicate with people I love, not understanding where my job security went, I was like, whoa, how do I cope? So the idea of when did I decide to change, I mean, that has happened since I was 4. But in reality, it's a decision I have to make every day on how I'm going to interact with the world around me.
Based on the challenges you've mentioned thus far, what would you say was the hardest one to move through, and what were your strategies to overcome it?
I would say my health issues. The job issues exacerbated that because I didn't have to worry about how I was gonna afford the health issues. It's hard to really say which one, 20-year career versus my well-being. I would say for both of those, I really had to find my tools. You always talk about that tool belt. Well, over my life, I've created this toolbox. I practiced yoga for years. I teach laughter yoga, guide meditations, tried all the different things. UK Wellness, oh my gosh, has been so helpful. Even before all the chaos, they were helping me with eating, intuition, and how to just find wellness in general. And that really helped me prepare for this chaos. Who would have known that the last year and a half would have been the most difficult year of my life? And all these tools I acquired, whoa, did they help? Yeah. Even though I was fighting against it, how do I do this? Where do I go? But yeah, definitely letting myself go with practices, being more present.
Do you still experience these challenges from time to time?
Yes, don't we all? The challenge is ultimately the fear and the confusion and the unknown. Anger at some points. For me, the biggest challenge is the unknown. Being a researcher, my whole life I've been asking why and pretty much generally finding the answers. When I can't find the answer, that's where I get frustrated. I'm like, I know I can figure this out. And having an undiagnosed situation, like we know the symptoms naturally, but we don't know the cause. And so yeah, the fear, the confusion of the unknown, I think, is the challenge that I have.
How has your definition or understanding of personal resilience evolved over time?
I used to think that personal resilience was like being strong and pushing through and not feeling emotional about it and just being like, hey, I do this and just moving forward, which got me through it, but it didn't really give me any healing. I didn't really have any closure or anything. So now through my journey of yoga and wellness, it really has given me a different perspective of what resilience is. It's not crying, it's crying and then using those tears to help and to heal. It's not pushing it to the back and, oh, that's not bothering me, we'll just put it back here. It's about bringing it to the front and like getting that dirty, that anger and all that, the gritty stuff up front so that you can actually move from it rather than running from it. I feel like resilience isn't removing it from your life. It's almost accepting it, acknowledging it, and just letting it go. It's still there. It's always going to be there. Whatever it is, it's still there. You're always going to have fear and anger and grief. It's just, where do you put that? And I think that's what resilience is now.
Would you say you're actively working through it and
oh, yeah,
creating some space from it?
Yeah, having space for it. The more space that I have for the trauma, the less it affects me in a negative way. Because it's going to be there. You know it's going to be there. It's just, what do you do with it? It's accepting it. And I think I'm still having a hard time with that because I'm not okay with a lot of the stuff that's happening or happened, but it's happened. And so I'm accepting that. I've dealt with that, and my resilience is being on the other side, knowing it's still there, knowing all these things still happened, not regretting decisions. I think that's where I'm really dealing with right now, is the resilience is like, hey, it happened. There's nothing I can do about it now. Because regret has come up the last few years too, of, oh, maybe I should have done that differently, or maybe I should have done this differently. But I feel like my resilience is getting me away from that. And hey, there's nothing I should have done differently. It happened the way it happened. And all I can do is go with it. Go with the flow. I wish it was that easy, right? Go with the flow, but that's what we have to do. That's what the tools do, is it helps you just move forward.
Were there any preconceived stigmas that you faced from friends, family, society, maybe even yourself along your journey?
Oh yeah, I've definitely been judged by friends and family, lifestyle choices that I've made. I'm in an interracial relationship that has put a little bit of strain on the decisions that I've made. I would never make a different decision. I am who I am, and I want to embrace who I am. And I have never really lived based on other people's rules. So that does give a lot of judgment, but I'm okay with that. I don't change myself for other people. I do what I do. I am who I am, and I embrace that.
Jaime, if you could go back in time to the beginning of your personal resilience journey and tell yourself one thing, what would that be?
If I could tell myself one thing, it would be the same thing that I want to leave the listeners with, which is to trust in yourself. Know that mind monster, those things that are telling you that you can't, that's just there to protect you so that you don't fail. But at the same point, if you don't try, you will fail. When all of these problems come up, know that nurturing yourself, nurturing your mind and your body is the most important thing. Listen to your intuition. If it feels wrong, it probably is. Those mind monsters might be saying the wrong things inside of your heart, what is truth and what is right for you. Just know that you should love yourself every day. Know that you can do it, that you are worthy, that you are important. Give yourself permission to love yourself, to know who you are. Give yourself permission to acknowledge the things you're going through. Most importantly, give yourself permission to be who you are, to love who you are, to love what you love. Give yourself permission to be you.
I hope you enjoyed hearing from Tony, Lynn, and Jaime Brown share their personal resilience stories. So we'll catch you on the next episode of Becoming Wildly Resilient. And until then, as always, be well, and thanks for watching. Thank you for listening to Becoming Wildly Resilient. This podcast is brought to you by University of Kentucky Human Resources, Health and Wellness. We offer a wide range of online and in-person services to support the well-being of UK employees, retirees, and their spouses. You can find experts in mental health, personal resilience, nutrition, and physical activity. We're ready to meet you where you are and address your unique needs. To learn more about the work, life, and well-being services offered by UK Human Resources, visit hr.uky.edu/wellbeing. You can also connect with us on social media and YouTube by searching @UKY Wellness or by email at healthandwellness@uky.edu.